Heartwarming encounter. Nurse's hidden struggles exposed, incredible first date transformations await. In the cozy diner on Maplewood South Main Street, the air buzzed with chatter and clinking silverware. Sarah sat nervously at the booth, her heart racing. Tonight marked her first date since her divorce, and everything felt electrifying yet terrifying. The weight of her scrubs from a long shift lingered on her shoulders, but she desperately wanted to shed that role, even if just for a few hours. She constantly fought to mask her worries about bills, student debts, and the nagging fear of failure that whispered in her ear daily. But here she was, ready for a chance at happiness or at least a decent meal. When Mark arrived, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. His warm smile held the promise of kindness, a welcomed contrast to the chaos in her life. "Hey, I hope I didn't keep you waiting," he said, his friendly tone melting some of her tension. Over soft lights and the aroma of grilled cheese, they shared laughter and stories, revealing their hopes and struggles. Mark, a mechanic from Oak Ridge, understood resilience all too well. Beneath his easygoing demeanor, Sarah saw dreams of better days and burdens of his own. "Life is a bit like a car, huh?" Mark chuckled. "Sometimes it needs a little tuning up." Sarah responded with a laugh, sharing a knowing glance that felt like the world outside faded. Did he sense the weight she carried? She wanted to bury those fears of inadequacy, the thoughts that clouded her mind like a looming thunderstorm. Just as the spark between them brightened, the shadow of her financial struggles clawed its way back in, threatening to reign over this magical night that as their relationship began to blossom over weeks filled with shared smiles and stolen moments. News broke across Maplewood like wildfire. The local clinic, their lifeline, faced budget cuts. Panic rippled through the close-knit community. Sarah's heart sank. It wasn't just her job on the line, but the health of her neighbors, too. An opportunity to fight was upon her, but she felt the suffocating weight of self-doubt pressed down like a heavy blanket. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the face of urgency, Sarah and Mark decided to organize a fundraiser, their moment to rally the community together. As they pieced together plans, a gentle intimacy blossomed. Yet Sarah's insecurities bubbled to the surface. Could she truly rely on Mark without feeling like a burden? The days leading to the event were filled with laughter, but also poignant heart-to-hearts where the fear of being judged gnawed at her soul. Then came the night of the fundraiser, bright with hope and bright lights. Yet, amid the cheerful crowd, a bitter confrontation ripped through her confidence. Someone raised an ugly comment about her financial struggles, igniting waves of doubt. The town buzzed, tensions ran high. Was she worthy of love? Worthy of their respect? As she braced herself against the onslaught of prejudice, Sarah faced pivotal questions. Who was she without the weight of those stories? Would love endure amid the storms swirling around her heart and community? The crowd in the diner dimmed, the chatter fading to a muted hum as Sarah's heart raced. The harsh comment hung in the air like a ghost, suffocating her spirit. She could feel Mark's gaze, a mix of concern and confusion. He stepped closer, his tall frame casting a reassuring shadow over her. "Don't listen to them," Mark said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're doing something really important here." His words wrapped around her, a lifeline thrown in turbulent waters. But doubt clawed back into her mind. What did he see in her, anyway? She glanced around, noticing familiar faces turning away, their whispers sharp like knives. The comfort she had felt moments before now resembled quicksand, pulling her down. Would her history always overshadow her future? Just then, Sarah caught sight of Mrs. Lane, the elderly woman from down the street, crossing the crowd to approach her. With shaking hands, Mrs. Lane reached for Sarah's and squeezed tightly. "I don't care about your struggles, dear. You help us every day. That's what matters." The warmth of her words ignited something in Sarah. Maybe this was about more than just her. The clinic provided care, comfort, and friendship to countless families. Perhaps, in fighting for its survival, she too could find her strength. "Let us get through tonight, Mark said, bringing her focus back. Together. His smile steadied her resolve. With newfound determination, Sarah stood taller. You're right. I can't let one person's opinion define my worth. Mark's eyes sparkled with pride, lending her courage. They turned back to the crowd, arms intertwined, their stance a united front as the event kicked off again. They moved among attendees, collecting donations and sharing stories. Laughter began to bubble back to the surface, easing the previous tension. One by one, faces brightened as they learned about the challenges the clinic faced. The community rallied, digging deeper into their pockets, amazed at the effort Sarah and Mark had put into the evening. By the end of the night, an overwhelming sense of purpose filled the room. They had raised more funds than they had hoped for, enough to keep the clinic afloat. When Sarah looked at Mark, she saw admiration in his eyes. In that moment, she felt a flicker of belonging and love, igniting something she thought was lost forever. But as they packed up the event's remnants, a sudden wave of exhaustion washed over Sarah. The emotional highs and lows felt almost tangible, and the weight of her insecurities threatened to push her back down. What if it was just a moment, she thought. What if tomorrow I just fall apart again? Before she could wallow in self-doubt, Mark leaned in closer, sensing her internal struggle. You're exhausted. Let us talk tomorrow. I want to know more about you, the real you. His hand lingered on hers, a tender promise binding them. But Sarah's mind raced with uncertainty. Was she ready to let him in completely? That night was a victory, but it felt like only the beginning. As they parted ways, Sarah could feel the weight of her fears whispering again. What if she was not enough? What did it even mean to be enough? As Sarah drove home, the stars twinkled in the clear sky, but her heart felt heavy. The promise of tomorrow became a question. Would she be brave enough to reveal all of herself? The journey was just beginning, and a single thought reverberated through her mind. What if her greatest struggle was merely the prelude to something beautiful? The morning sun peeked through the curtains, casting a soft glow in Sarah's small apartment. The quiet of the world outside was a stark contrast to the whirlpool of thoughts swirling in her head. Last night replayed in fragments, each moment both uplifting and daunting. Doubt crept back in, whispering the same questions with greater insistence. What if everything was a fluke? What if revealing her true self scared Mark away? She dragged herself out of bed and prepared a simple breakfast, her mind consumed by her insecurities. The way Mark had looked at her, his eyes filled with warmth and admiration, felt like a balm to her worries. Yet, the fear of being vulnerable loomed like a dark cloud. Each time she dared to believe in their connection, her past rushed back with the force of a tidal wave. The phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, pulling her from her spiraling thoughts. It was a text from Mark. Good morning. I hope you're ready for our talk today. I can't wait to learn more about you. The enthusiasm in his words sent a flutter through her stomach. Maybe it was time to let the walls down, just a bit. Gazing into the mirror, Sarah practiced the smile she hoped would brighten her face. She chose a simple, flowing dress that felt comforting, one that she'd worn before when she needed a little extra bravery. The drive to their meeting spot, a cozy cafe downtown, was filled with uncertainty. But with each passing block, the excitement mixed with anxiety tingled beneath her skin. As she arrived, the aroma of fresh coffee enveloped her senses. Mark was already there, leaning against the entrance, looking so perfectly at ease. His smile broke through her doubts, lighting up the corners of her heart that had been shadowed for too long. Hey, you look great, he called out, stepping forward to embrace her. The warmth of his hug wrapped around her like a security blanket, filling her with strength. They found a spot outside, among the small tables shaded by brightly colored umbrellas. Thanks. Just trying to keep up with your charm, she joked, feeling slightly lighter. I think you're doing just fine, Mark replied, his gaze steady and genuine. Sarah took a deep breath, letting it settle in. So, I guess I should start with why I'm kind of a mess. Her voice wavered, but she pushed on. Hey, no pressure. I'm here for whatever you want to share, he reassured, leaning closer as if wanting to absorb every word. As she began to speak, she shared pieces of her journey, the struggles, the doubts, and how the clinic had become her anchor. Each word felt like shedding layers of armor she had worn for so long. Mark listened intently, occasionally nodding, his expression never wavering from support. Wow, you've faced so much, he said softly when she finished. But don't you see? You're stronger than you know. You help people every day? That takes incredible guts. Heat flooded her cheeks at his words, a mixture of embarrassment and pride merging within her. I just wish I could see myself the way you do, she admitted, vulnerability creeping back in. Mark reached across the table, squeezing her hand gently. You will. Just give yourself time. I see so much in you already, and I want to help you see it too. His sincerity struck her deep, and for a moment, hope flickered brightly. But beneath the surface, a voice whispered, warning her of potential heartbreak. What if this moment of connection was just temporary? Can I tell you something? Mark continued, a slight hesitation in his tone. The shift in his demeanor caught her attention. I've been through my share of struggles too. I don't want things to feel one-sided. She leaned in, encouraged by the openness in his voice. What would he reveal? As the conversation flowed, Sarah felt invigorated by the possibility of mutual vulnerability. They were both standing at the edge of transformation, ready to dive into something new. But deep inside, apprehension gnawed at her. Would they both be brave enough to face whatever came next? Just then, the cafe's bell chimed as a group of happy customers entered the bustling space. The warmth between her and Mark felt electric, yet she couldn't shake the underlying fear. What truths still lay hidden, waiting to surface in the light of their shared stories? The moment hung suspended, and staring into Mark's earnest eyes, Sarah wondered, could they both navigate this path together, or was she about to lose herself in her insecurities once more? Sarah's heart raced as she sifted through the emotions bouncing across the cafe table. The warmth of sunlight kissed her cheeks, but in that moment, it felt cold compared to the whirlwind inside her. Mark's honesty opened a door, one that she longed to step through, yet her feet felt heavy. Okay, she finally said, her voice barely a whisper. What struggles have you faced? Mark had been leaning forward, his body language inviting her to dig deeper into their story. Now he sat back a little, running his hand through his hair, as if gathering thoughts. I guess I grew up with a father who was very hard on me. He had high expectations, always pushing me to be the best, and when I wasn't, he paused, his eyes scanning the bustling cafe, searching for the right words. It felt like I never quite measured up. The air around them electrified, charged with understanding. A piece of Sarah's heart cracked open, revealing how much she related. She nodded slowly, encouraging him to continue. I carried that weight for a long time, he said softly, looking directly into her eyes with a vulnerability that caught her off guard. It made me afraid to fail, making relationships feel daunting. He leaned forward again, sincerity radiating from him. But I'm working on it. I don't want my past to dictate my future. His confession hung in the air, solid and true. Sarah felt the invisible threads of their experiences intertwining, binding them in a fragile but real way. She understood. She felt seen. Your journey is incredible, she managed, feeling warmth swell in her chest. I can relate to that pressure. Wanting to prove yourself, it can feel suffocating. Mark's expression softened, and he squeezed her hand again. But we don't have to carry it alone, right? Helping each other, taking steps forward together, that's what it's all about. The words were simple, yet they ignited a flicker of courage in her. She realized she needed to let go, even if it was just a sliver of her burden. Yes, she replied, breath unsteady. I want to try. As they continued to share their stories, Sarah felt a weight lifting. Piece by piece, she was shedding the armor she wore. Mark's laughter punctuated their conversation, and in his jokes, she found freedom, the kind that made her heart expand rather than constrict. But with each revelation, a familiar tension twisted in her gut. Shadows of her past, memories of rejection and heartache, lingered at the edges. What if she wasn't ready for this? What if she ruined the best thing she had found in a long time by letting her fears take charge, just as her mind spiraled into doubt? Mark's next words broke through. I genuinely want to know more about you, Sarah. What makes you tick? What do you love? His interest felt like a lifeline. It shook her back to the present, grounding her. I love helping people. It fills me with purpose, you know? But there are days when it feels overwhelming. I want to find balance. Mark nodded in understanding. Finding balance is tough. It's like chasing a moving target. As they laughed and shared thoughts about life, the afternoon sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue over their table. Sarah marveled at how this simple cafe, with its comforting sounds and warm light, felt like a sanctuary for her soul. Yet the nagging doubt was still there, whispering that she was walking on fragile ground. Just then, the barista interrupted their moment with their drinks, 2 steaming mugs of coffee topped with frothy foam art. Mark's eyes danced with mischief as he leaned closer, gesturing for her to add sugar. "Let us make it sweeter, just like this conversation." He grinned, and she couldn't help but grin back, trying to absorb the moment. But inside her head, alarms rang. Could this sweetness endure the harshness of her fears? With every laugh, every shared glance, Sarah ventured deeper into uncharted territory, wondering if she could truly emerge unscathed on the other side. "Are we really doing this?" she thought, the question looming as heavy as the fears she still clutched tightly. "Sarah," Mark called, snapping her back. He looked serious now, eyes searching hers. "I have to ask, what are you most afraid of?" Her breath hitched, and she froze. There it was, the moment of truth looming over her. Would she dare to bare her soul fully or retreat back into the safety of uncertainty? Before she could answer, the world outside dimmed as clouds rolled in, casting shadows over the cafe. The warmth that had ignited between them suddenly felt like it was fading. And as Sarah's heart raced, she knew it was time to decide whether to leap into the unknown or retreat to safety. Mark's gaze held hers, unyielding as if he could pull the secrets right out of her soul. Sarah's stomach twisted in a knot. The silence between them thickened, a palpable tension that made the air feel almost electric. What was she most afraid of? 1,000 answers surged in her mind. Rejection, vulnerability, failure. Each one a shadow she had fought for years, but what they all boiled down to was the fear of opening up. The weight of her past loomed larger than ever. She felt bare, trapped in his gaze, and her usual defenses seemed futile. "Mark," she finally breathed, feeling her heart drum nervously in her chest. "I'm afraid of losing people, of being left behind. I've lost so much already." The confession rushed out, raw and unfettered, the words tasting foreign on her tongue. His expression shifted, compassion flickered in his deep-set eyes. "You're not alone in that fear," he replied quietly. "We all have things that haunt us. But maybe, just maybe, the best way through it is together." There was a hint of hope in his voice, and as she glanced away to gather herself, Sarah allowed the tiniest sliver of uncertainty to slip away. Could she really trust him? Trust anyone again? Heavy clouds crowded the sky outside, the light in the cafe dimming as if nature itself was mirroring her internal struggles. But with each moment that passed, she felt something unfamiliar stirring inside her, a longing to break free, to embrace the life that was waiting on the other side of her fear. "Maybe you're right," Sarah said, looking back at him with renewed determination. "I don't want to keep running from my past. It's exhausting." Mark's smile returned, warmer than ever. "Then let us take that step. Together." The warmth of his words ignited a spark. She could feel possibility lingering in the air, mingling with the uncertainty still looming. For the first time in a long while, Sarah wanted to take action. With a deep breath, she decided to lean in, to see where this connection might lead. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket, jolting her back. She fished it out, the bright screen illuminating her flustered face. A message from her sister flickered, urgent and confrontational. "Sarah, you cannot just walk away from everything. You need to face this." The familiar rush of anxiety swept through her, and her heart pounded in response. For a fleeting moment, she considered retreating, allowing her fears to reclaim the distance she had fought so hard to close. "Is everything okay?" Mark asked, concern etched across his features. His question hung in the air like an unanswered prayer. She clenched her phone, torn between confiding in Mark and the whirlwind brewing within her. "No," she replied softly, shaking her head with a hint of defiance. "But I want to be okay." With the heaviness of her sister's message still weighing on her, she caught Mark's gaze again, willing him to see her resolve. "This is just a lot, you know? Which is why we take it piece by piece," he responded, his tone encouraging. "Whatever you're dealing with, I'm here. You don't have to face anything alone." The sincerity of his words washed over her like a warm tide, pushing back the shadows just enough to see the light of potential beyond. Maybe opening up to Mark could lead to something new, something beautiful. But as she grappled with her decision, her phone buzzed again, another urgent notification demanding her attention. This time, She let it sit unanswered. I want to talk, Mark. Really talk. But can we take our time? He nodded, respect radiating from him. Always. This is about you. Whenever you're ready. As they settled back into each other's presence, sharing stories of funny childhood moments and embarrassing high school memories, Sarah felt the weight of her worries lift, if only just a little. The world outside continued to shift ominously, but inside, she was finding her footing. However, deep down, a storm still brewed. Until she faced her fears head-on. Could she truly grab hold of this newfound connection? The flickering candle on their table caught her attention, the flame dancing with resolve. One thing was clear, she had a choice to make. But even as new warmth blossomed between them, uncertainty lingered at the edges like a storm cloud refusing to move. Mark, she began, her voice steadier now. I think I need to face the truth about my fears. That means laying it all bare. Can you handle that? His eyes sparkled with understanding. I'm ready if you are. And in that moment of shared determination, she knew things were about to shift. But as she took one step forward, she could still feel the past gripping her heart, and she wondered what the unfolding truth would reveal about her and about them both. The cafe buzzed quietly as the candle flickered, illuminating Sarah's face in the dim light. Mark's presence was a steady balm against the storm of emotions raging inside her. He didn't rush her. Instead, he leaned back slightly, allowing her the space to process, to breathe. Taking a deep breath, Sarah sensed her own vulnerability, but felt an unexpected warmth in sharing this moment with him. You know, she started hesitantly. I've always been the strong one in my family, the reliable one. But her voice faltered. Would he still see her as strong if she revealed her cracks? But it's okay to not be okay, Mark interjected gently, offering her a reassuring smile. His words wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, giving her the nudge she needed. She nodded, feeling the truth in his statement. I guess I've built so many walls. It's like I think if I keep everyone at a distance, I won't get hurt again. But that also means I'm missing out on genuine connections. He listened, his focus unwavering. You don't have to let those fears define you. You can choose differently. Sarah's heart raced at the thought. Could she really choose a different path? There was honesty in Mark's eyes, and in that instant, she felt a spark of courage. The last time I tried to connect with someone, it ended badly, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I lost someone I loved, and it shattered me. Mark leaned in, the distance between them diminishing. Losing someone is never easy. But isolating yourself doesn't honor their memory. You deserve to feel joy again, to let others in. His words were like a lifeline. For so long, she had avoided even thinking about love, convinced she was safer alone. But here she was, contemplating the unexpected in attraction that felt both thrilling and frightening. I want to, Sarah replied, her voice stronger now. But how do you move forward when the past feels so heavy? Step by step, he encouraged. Let it be a gradual process. You don't have to unload everything at once. Share what feels comfortable. The idea of sharing felt less daunting now. Sarah looked around the cafe, the shadows dancing around them, mirroring her internal struggle. Okay, she agreed, feeling empowered. I think that's what I need. Just a step. Maybe even just sharing small parts of my story. Absolutely, Mark said, his smile widening. We can start with lighter things. What was your happiest childhood memory? A genuine smile broke through Sarah's anxiety. Happiest? She laughed softly, recalling the summer days spent at her grandmother's house. It would have to be chasing fireflies at dusk with my cousins. We'd catch them in jars and pretend we were wizards with enchanted powers. Mark chuckled. I can picture that. What powers would you have? Their laughter broke through Sarah's apprehension, creating a warmth that enveloped them both. She realized that vulnerability didn't mean weakness. It meant having the courage to show a piece of herself and connect without fear. They continued exchanging stories, each one building a bridge between them. With every laugh and shared memory, Sarah felt lighter and more alive. It was exhilarating to see how quickly they clicked, how easily the conversation flowed. But amid the growing joy, a worry flickered at the back of her mind. Was she moving too fast? Could this budding connection withstand the bumpy road ahead? Just as the thought threatened to steal her joy, Mark spoke, breaking into her reverie. You know, I admire you, Sarah, for even just sitting here and opening up. Not everyone has that strength. She held his gaze, feeling the weight of those words. I'm learning. But fear is still a constant shadow. The acknowledgement felt liberating, and Mark's approving nod gave her a renewed sense of purpose. But what if this was just another fleeting moment? As they continued to share, she noticed her phone lighting up on the table, another message from her sister. This time, she didn't ignore it. Picking it up, she glanced quickly at the screen. "Sarah, you need to come home and talk to me." The urgency was palpable in her sister's words. Taking a deep breath, she placed her phone down, heart racing. Here she was, on the brink of possibly something beautiful, and the past was clawing its way back in. Would she turn back now, or confront the truth her sister wanted her to face? "Mark," she said, her voice wavering, "I think I need to make a decision. About everything." His expression turned serious, sensing the shift. "I'm here for whatever you choose." But deep down, Sarah knew an internal battle was brewing, and she wasn't quite ready to show him all her cards. Could she really face the truth back home, and still hold onto the connection growing here? The storm inside her rumbled, but she also felt that flickering flame of hope. Tomorrow was another day, a chance to confront both her past and present. With her heart pounding, she wondered where this path with Mark might lead, and if she was strong enough to take the next step when the moment came. Sarah's heart raced as she grappled with her sister's message. It felt like a heavy anchor in what had been a buoyant moment. Mark's eyes searched her face, dark brows knitting together in concern. The warmth that had enveloped them now felt like a tight rope of tension. I need to think," she muttered, the words escaping her lips almost against her will. "It's complicated." Mark nodded, but there was a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. Did he think she was shutting him out? The thought made her chest tighten. She didn't want to push him away. She craved this connection, but home called her back, dragging behind it the weight of her past. "What do you need to figure out?" he asked softly, his voice barely above the cafe's gentle hum. Taking a moment, Sarah searched for an answer. "It's just my sister," she finally managed. "She wants to talk about some family stuff." She trailed off, unsure how much to reveal. Would sharing make him understand? Would it help her own confusion? "Family stuff can be tough," Mark said, reflecting sympathy. "You don't have to share if you're not ready, but I'm here. Just know, you don't have to face it alone." His compassion sent warmth flooding through her again, but along with it came a bittersweet recognition of her own solitude. "I'm just scared of what I'm going back to," she admitted. "Scared that facing it will mean stepping back into pain. You know?" He reached across the table, his hand covering hers for just a moment. "I do. But you can't let the past steal your future." There it was again, the truth she needed. But how easily she'd been able to ignore it until now. She pulled back her hand, the warmth dissipating. "It's just a lot," she whispered, swallowing down the lump that rose in her throat. Mark regarded her thoughtfully, a depth in his eyes that stirred something within her. "You're already handling a lot in this moment, just by being here. Tell me, what if it helps to talk it out instead of holding it inside?" A shiver went down her spine at the thought. What if talking about it was the only way to regain her control? To mold the pieces of her fractured life into something resembling a future? "What if I break down?" she finally asked, fearfully. "What if I fall apart in front of you? Then we'll pick up the pieces together," he said with a reassuring smile, his sincerity warming her from the inside. Sarah felt a flutter of courage, but couldn't quell the echo of doubt. She met his gaze, searching him for a sign that he could really handle the weight of her truth. The realization struck her she was more afraid of how he might react than of facing her family. But wasn't that the crux of her struggle? Letting people in, risking their judgment, their compassion, and possibly their disappointment? Assurance washed over her. If she could admit to herself that she longed to share her story, maybe Mark would understand. Maybe he'd accept that part of her. "Okay," she said slowly, her voice gaining strength. "Okay, I'll tell you. Just give me a moment." As she prepared to share, she felt the weight of each moment she'd hesitated. She glanced around the cafe, noticing the laughter and comfort among the other patrons, and a little flicker of determination ignited within her. This could be her moment to face the fire and walk through it unscathed. But just as she opened her mouth, her phone dinged again. The sharp sound pierced the bubble of their intimate conversation, snapping her focus back to a reality she wasn't ready to confront. "Sorry," she murmured, picking it up. Mark's encouraging nod urged her on, But she hesitated again as she read the urgent text. "We're waiting for you, Sarah. This can't wait any longer." Her heart sank. "Can't wait?" she whispered to herself. Mark leaned in closer, concern painting his features. "Everything okay?" And in that moment, Sarah realized she was at a crossroads. Would she let the past dictate her present, or could she summon the courage to stand firm, to embrace both the warmth of new beginnings and the difficult truths of her heart? As she considered her choices, a voice inside screamed for her to be brave. Could she truly face her fears head-on? Sarah took a deep breath, and just as she was about to respond, doubt crept back in. Could she really expose her heart when the past still loomed large? The cafe seemed to hold its breath, and so did she, a question lingering in the air, steady and silent. Would she take this leap into the unknown with Mark, or would the truth send her running back to the comfort of her solitude? With a trembling heart, she realized her next move might define more than just that moment. It could change everything. Sarah's fingers hovered over her phone, the words flickering in her mind. There it was again, another reminder that she couldn't hide from the things that haunted her. The text felt like a lifeline and a chain all at once, a tether pulling her back to the chaos she tried to distance herself from. Mark's eyes were steady on her, unyielding in their support. It was his presence that made everything more complicated and, perhaps, more possible. For a moment, she was torn between two worlds, the heavy weight of past wounds and the warmth that Mark offered so effortlessly. "I should probably," she started, but the words stuck in her throat. "Hey," Mark said, gently squeezing her wrist as if anchoring her back to the moment. "What did it say?" She gazed into his earnest features, searching for strength in his steady gaze. Here was a man who genuinely cared, and yet the thought of letting him into her chaos, sharing the depths of her fear, felt like standing on a cliff's edge. "It's just my sister said they're waiting for me," she managed, her voice trembling with the truth. "She said it can't wait." "Doesn't he sound like something you can ignore?" he replied, his tone encouraging but mindful of her hesitation. "No, it doesn't." The realization hit her like a wave, and her heart began to race anew. Here was the moment. The moment where she could either take a step into uncharted waters or retreat into the comfort of silence. "What if this is what I'm meant to do?" she murmured, more to herself than to him. "What if facing them is the key to moving on?" Mark tilted his head, silently urging her on. "Then maybe it's time to face it. You've already braved so much just to be here. You don't have to face it alone, remember?" His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket, but doubt still nipped at her heels. "And what if I can't handle it?" she asked, vulnerability spilling forth. "What if I fall apart when I see them? There's so much anger and hurt, so much I've tried to forget." "Then you fall apart," Mark replied simply, shrugging. "And we'll figure it out together. Who says it has to be perfect?" The honesty in his voice threatened to break her armor. She took a sharp breath, weighing his words like stones. Each thought pressed down on her heart, drawing out a sense of release. What if all this time, trying to hold everything together, had only kept her trapped? "Okay," she said, conviction slowly rising within her. "I'll go. I'll face them." A surprised smile broke on Mark's face, and for the briefest moment, she felt lighter. But the relief was quickly tempered with a wave of anxiety. Facing her family could mean everything wonderful, painful, and everything in between. But imagining Mark by her side brought an unexpected comfort. "Just promise me you'll text me afterward," he said, his voice low and earnest. "Let me know how it goes." "I will," she said, a tremor of hope weaving through her apprehension. "I really will." With a final glance at her phone, she made her decision. Her heart swelled with the thrill of the unknown, a fragile yet fierce hope threading through the tightness in her chest. Mark watched her, his warmth radiating as she slid her phone into her pocket. It was an unspoken promise, one that echoed in the space between them. "Let us finish up here, okay?" he suggested, a smile breaking through the underlying tension. "Then you can head out feeling good about this." "Sound good?" "Yeah," she breathed, finally feeling the weight of the moment settle beneath her precarious resolve. But just as her heart began to steady, a familiar name popped into her thoughts: Eric. The memories of their last encounter rushed forward, turning her excitement once again into uncertainty. Could she truly face her sister, after everything Eric had thrown her way? As she held Mark's gaze, a small part of her feared that opening up about her family would somehow mean dragging him into the mess that had been her life. "Sarah?" Mark's voice broke through her thoughts, a gentle reminder she was here and now. She blinked, searching for an answer. She needed to embrace this change, needed to believe in herself as much as he believed in her. But could she trust that the strength she felt now would carry her through the turmoil ahead? Her heart raced again, not from doubt, but from something bold and unrecognizable. What if stepping back into her family's chaos also meant stepping into a new light? Would she be able to handle it? With a deep breath, she took a leap of faith, allowing the bubbling anticipation to settle as the door of possibility opened wide. And just as she felt the pull toward courage, her phone buzzed once more. "Are you coming or not?" It read. All at once, Sarah understood. Facing the past might mean redefining the future if she dared to take that plunge. The sun hung low in the sky as Sarah stepped outside, the warm light filtering through the trees. As she locked her car, the weight of her decision settled heavily on her shoulders. She could almost feel the shadows of her past trailing behind, whispering doubts as she walked toward the familiar front door of her childhood home. With each step, memories flooded her mind, the laughter, the tears, the echoes of arguments that had once rattled her very core. She paused, her heart pounding against her chest. This was it. She raised her hand to knock, hesitating just a moment. What if her sister wasn't ready? What if the anger, the hurt from their last interactions, threatened to overshadow whatever fleeting hope she carried into this moment? Just breathe, she whispered to herself, recalling the warmth of Mark's encouraging smile. Before she could talk herself out of it, she rapped her knuckles against the door. The sound felt monstrous in the stillness, reverberating in her ears. A muffled voice from inside beckoned her in. Sarah took a deep breath, clenched her fists, and stepped through the threshold. The living room was just as she remembered, faded family photos lining the walls, the scent of her mother's cinnamon candles lingering in the air, and the soft murmur of conversation that simmered in the background. Her sister, Emily, caught sight of her first. "Sarah." Emily's voice was a mix of surprise and happiness as she rushed toward her. They embraced tightly, and in that moment, Sarah felt both comforted and terrified all at once. "Thanks for coming," Emily said, her eyes shining with something unspoken. Sarah forced a smile, but tension coiled deep within her. "I didn't know if I could. Not after everything." "I know," Emily replied, stepping back to gauge Sarah's expression. "But really, it's good to see you." As they took a seat at the dining table where countless family dinners had taken place, Sarah's eyes drifted toward the empty chair at the end, the chair that had belonged to their father. The once vibrant family gatherings felt overshadowed by memories of quiet whispers, secrets, and unresolved pain. "Dad would love to have you here," Emily said softly, reading the room. A lump formed in Sarah's throat. "Yeah, I miss him." Moments filled with silence passed between them, heavy with the weight of shared grief. Sarah then decided to push through the unease. She needed to speak. "We haven't really talked since everything happened with Eric." Emily's expression shifted, eyes narrowing slightly at the mention of their brother. "I know. It's just hard to mention him. Isn't it?" "Yeah." Sarah took a deep breath, the truth spilling out in a rush. "I felt betrayed. I wanted to lean on you, but I didn't know how." The vulnerability hung in the air, and Emily reached out, resting a hand atop Sarah's. "You should reached out. I felt alone in that too. I think we both got lost somewhere in all that anger." Sarah met her sister's gaze, realizing they had both been scrambling through grief alone, caught in their own storms. "Can we try to face this together?" Emily's smile was tentative yet hopeful. "I'd like that." Their words broke the dam, unleashing emotions that had been contained far too long. Sarah poured out her feelings, the hurt, the rage, the guilt. Each confession brought solace, stitching together the tangled threads of their relationship. Just as a faint sense of clarity began to settle, the door swung wide, and a sudden voice, loud and brash, interrupted the moment. "Hope I'm not too late to the party." Sarah's heart dropped at the unmistakable figure standing in the doorway, Eric. The air grew thick with attention, uncertainty coating the atmosphere. Sarah's pulse quickened as she shot a glance at Emily, a mix of panic and dread flooding her senses. What now? Would this derail everything they had just built up together? As Eric advanced into the room, all eyes fixed on him, Sarah's mind raced. She had stepped into the light, opened her heart, But here came the darkness again, threatening to steal it all away. Would she falter here, or find the strength to push through? In that moment, an unexpected thought struck her. What if standing up to him was the key to unlocking the future she desperately sought? The tension in the room thickened, making Sarah's heart pound in her chest. Would this moment destroy everything she had fought to reclaim? Eric smiled, but there was a coldness behind it. So what are we talking about? Family secrets? Emily's hand tightened around Sarah's, a silent reminder they were in this together, but the uncertainty loomed large. Just catching up, Emily replied, her voice steady despite the dread that filled the air. Sarah took a deep breath, the remnants of courage sparking within her as she stared into Eric's eyes, a gaze that had once made her feel small. What do you want, Eric? He looked taken aback, a flicker of annoyance flashing across his face. But Sarah wasn't backing down. You can't walk in here after everything you put us through and act like it's nothing. I'm tired of pretending your behavior doesn't affect our family. Eric opened his mouth to protest, but the urge to let it all go washed over her like a tidal wave. You broke our trust, she continued, anger lacing her voice but undercut by an underlying determination. You made it impossible for us to lean on each other when we needed each other the most. The room went silent, Emily watching with wide eyes. For a moment, Eric's smugness faltered. Sarah pressed on, feeling the wounds exposed but not broken by them. I've struggled for a long time, and the pain you caused isn't just going to fade away because you show up here acting like everything is fine. The words hung heavy in the air. Fear threatened to creep in, but she felt Mark's presence in the back of her mind, his unwavering belief that she could face the truth head-on. I know we're all hurt, she said, the calmness of her voice surprising even herself. But that doesn't mean we can't try to heal together, starting with honesty. Eric scoffed, but the anger seemed to fade. You think you know what honesty is? Yes. The intensity in her voice surprised her. You've lied and run away from your responsibilities. But I'm not running anymore. I want to face the truth for the sake of this family. Emily watched, her eyes filled with admiration and relief, while the door stood still behind Eric, a barrier he could no longer use to hide. The moment stretched thin, tension easing. Would Eric take the leap, stand with them, or continue to spiral into separation? As if on cue, his shoulders slumped. For the first time, he looked less like an antagonist and more like a frightened child, lost in a world that had changed without him. Fine, I messed up. I get it, we need you to be honest, Emily interjected softly, her tone filled with an unexpected warmth that gave Eric no choice but to listen. We can start rebuilding, but we have to face what is happening. I don't want to fight, he muttered. Silence spun out in the room. The air grew charged with a strange mixture of grief and hope, a palpable energy hanging like a thread, waiting for someone to grasp it. It's not about fighting, Sarah said, feeling the strength of her own words. It's about acknowledging the hurt and deciding to move forward. Tentative nods followed. There was something new at play, a chance to redefine what family meant in this moment. Would Eric lean into that? I'm sorry, he stammered, vulnerability flickering across his face like a dimming light, illuminating the cracks in his bravado. I wasn't there when you all needed me. I just didn't know how to handle the pain. Sarah's breath caught, the knot within her loosening slightly. There was catharsis in his admission, and for the first time, she felt a real possibility of healing on the horizon. I want to know how you felt, she said gently, hoping to break through whatever walls still held him captive. Perhaps this was the beginning of their shared journey, of rebuilding not only their family ties, but taking steps to reconnect with her own self through loss and love. Just then, her phone buzzed again, but this time she ignored it. She looked at Emily. They had each other. So, Sarah started, reiterating the strength that had blossomed inside her. Can we work together? With renewed hope, the trio took the first humble steps through vulnerability and honesty, 3 separate lives intertwining into a shared narrative of transformation. Laughter broke the silence, old memories surfacing like flowers in spring. And as Sarah stood, surrounded by the complexity of her family's scars healing, she understood the most beautiful moments could rise from the ashes. Both love and trust had come alive in her heart, echoing the magic she'd struggled to find. Moments later, Mark quietly entered the house, sensing the shift. As he caught Sarah's eye, An encouraging smile spread across his face, reflecting back the light she thought she had buried forever. In that glance, she felt ready for the unfolding chapters, ready to embrace whom she truly was, and embrace the many ways love had fiercely transformed her life. Now, she thought now is the moment. Just then, something inside her clicked. Each moment, every word exchanged, had breathed life into something unbreakable. This was the start of an incredible journey. Before it could fade away, she whispered a quick thank you to the universe, deciding right then that this was more than a beginning, it was the dawn of hope. Now, listen up. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a huge difference. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible journey unfold. Your support means the world.